Airports are designed to feel familiar, efficient, and even friendly. But behind the scenes, airlines use subtle strategies that most passengers never notice. These tactics aren't always illegal, and they aren't always announced, but they are carefully engineered to influence your decisions, your spending, and even how much discomfort you're willing to tolerate without complaining. In 2026, these strategies have become more refined than ever. As flights get more crowded, seats get smaller, and fees become more complex, airlines rely on psychology just as much as policy. Many travelers assume confusion, delays, and inconvenience are accidental. In reality, some of them are intentional. When passengers don't understand what's happening, they're more likely to accept less, pay more, and move on quietly. Seniors and infrequent flyers are especially affected because they trust the system and assume airlines are transparent by default. This video is about pulling back the curtain. We're going to break down airport and airline secrets that quietly work against passengers, not to scare you, but to help you stay informed and in control. When you know what to watch for, these tricks lose their power. You make better decisions, ask better questions, and avoid unnecessary stress. Before we dive in, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We share travel insights airlines don't clearly explain, so you're prepared before you ever step into the airport. If you've ever felt rushed, confused, or pressured while flying and couldn't quite explain why, this video is for you. Let's get into the airport secrets airlines use to quietly trick passengers, and how knowing them changes everything. 1. Airlines design. Confusing boarding zones on purpose. One of the most effective tricks airlines use is intentionally confusing boarding zones. At first glance, boarding groups look logical, numbered, and orderly. In reality, they are designed to create uncertainty. Airlines frequently rename zones, reshuffle priority labels, or use overlapping terms like group, zone, priority, and pre-boarding, knowing most passengers won't fully understand the difference. This confusion benefits airlines in two ways. First, it speeds up boarding without requiring clear explanations. When passengers are unsure, they line up early, crowd gate areas, and self-police each other. This reduces the need for staff intervention. Second, it pushes passengers toward paid upgrades. When people see multiple priority labels and don't know where they belong, they're more likely to pay for early boarding next time, just to avoid stress. Seniors are especially affected because they often follow rules carefully and hesitate when instructions aren't clear. Airlines rely on that hesitation. Another hidden tactic is inconsistent enforcement. Some gate agents strictly enforce zones, while others wave people through. This inconsistency trains passengers to rush forward early, afraid they'll miss their turn. Airlines could easily standardize boarding, but confusion creates urgency, and urgency keeps people compliant. Another overlooked detail is how gate announcements are delivered. They're often rushed, unclear, or partially drowned out by noise. This isn't accidental. When passengers miss information, they default to crowd behavior. The result is chaos that benefits airlines by keeping planes moving quickly. Boarding confusion isn't a flaw in the system. It's a feature designed to shift pressure from airlines onto passengers themselves. 2. Gate changes and delayed announcements are used strategically. Gate changes feel random, but airlines use them strategically. One of the biggest secrets is that airlines often delay gate announcements until the last possible moment. This keeps passengers contained in central areas filled with shops, restaurants, and ads. The longer people wait without a confirmed gate, the more likely they are to spend money. Once a gate is announced, passengers move quickly and stop browsing. Airlines and airports share revenue from concessions, so keeping passengers wandering benefits both. Another trick involves frequent gate changes even when flights are on time. Moving gates disrupts passenger flow just enough to reset attention and compliance. Confused passengers are less likely to question delays, seat issues, or boarding order. Seniors are particularly affected because moving between gates requires physical effort and creates anxiety. Airlines know most passengers won't complain publicly. Another hidden tactic is last-minute gate assignments at distant terminals. This forces passengers to rush, making them less likely to notice policy changes or challenge issues. Another overlooked detail is selective communication. Airlines update apps and screens inconsistently. Some passengers see changes earlier than others, creating uneven awareness. This fragmentation prevents collective pushback. If everyone knew what was happening at the same time, complaints would be louder. Instead, confusion isolates passengers. Gate changes aren't always operational necessities. They're tools used to manage crowds, maximize spending, and reduce resistance. Knowing this helps passengers stay alert, check apps constantly, and avoid unnecessary rushing. 3. Airlines use seating confusion to push paid upgrades without saying it. Airline seating looks simple on the surface, but it is deliberately engineered to create confusion, hesitation, and second-guessing. This confusion is not accidental. Airlines know that when passengers feel uncertain about where they'll sit, how much space they'll have, or whether they'll be comfortable, they are far more likely to pay extra, just to feel secure. Seat maps are one of the biggest tools in this strategy. Airlines often show incomplete seat maps during booking, hiding blocked seats, crew holds, or preferred seating zones. Passengers assume the remaining seats are the only options, creating artificial scarcity. Seniors are especially affected because they value comfort and predictability. When faced with uncertainty, many choose to pay rather than risk discomfort. Another trick is inconsistent seat labeling. Terms like standard, preferred, economy plus, and extra comfort sound meaningful but often reflect minimal differences. Airlines rarely explain exact measurements unless you search deeply. This vagueness makes passengers imagine worst-case scenarios, pushing them toward paid seats. Another tactic involves last-minute seat changes. Airlines may reshuffle seating close to departure due to operational needs, but they rarely explain this clearly. Passengers who paid for upgrades are less likely to be moved, reinforcing the belief that paying equals protection. Another overlooked detail is how seat selection screens emphasize negative language. Warnings like limited availability or almost full are displayed even when many seats remain. This creates urgency. Another strategy is separating companions by default unless seats are selected. Seniors traveling with spouses often pay simply to stay together. Airlines know emotional discomfort is a powerful motivator. Another subtle trick is post-purchase prompts. Even after booking, airlines repeatedly remind passengers to upgrade your seat, reinforcing anxiety about the original choice. Seating confusion isn't about logistics. It's psychological pressure designed to convert uncertainty into revenue. When passengers understand this, they can make calmer decisions and avoid paying for fear instead of real value. 4. Airlines use time pressure and silence to reduce complaints and claims. One of the most powerful tricks airlines use is time pressure combined with silence. When something goes wrong, delays, missed connections, seat issues, or service problems, airlines rarely explain everything clearly in real time. Instead, they allow uncertainty to stretch, knowing most passengers won't act unless prompted. Time pressure works because travelers are focused on catching flights, finding gates, or getting home. Airlines know that when people are tired or rushed, they're less likely to file complaints or demand compensation. Seniors are especially affected because they often avoid confrontation and assume silence means nothing can be done. Another tactic is delayed acknowledgement. Airlines may wait hours or days before admitting fault, knowing many passengers will move on. Another hidden strategy is burying information in apps or emails sent after travel, when emotional urgency has faded. Refund rights, compensation windows, and claim deadlines are rarely emphasized at the airport. Airlines rely on passengers not knowing what to ask for in the moment. Another overlooked trick is staff deflection. Gate agents are trained to keep lines moving, not resolve disputes. When passengers are told to contact customer service later, most never do. Airlines also use vague language like operational reasons to avoid accountability. Another powerful tool is fatigue. Long travel days wear passengers down physically and mentally. By the time an issue occurs, many people simply want to get home. Airlines count on this exhaustion. Silence plays a key role. When no clear announcement is made, passengers assume nothing can be done. In reality, many issues qualify for assistance or compensation if addressed promptly. Time pressure and silence aren't accidents. They're systems designed to minimize pushback. Passengers who know this can slow down, ask direct questions, and protect their rights before the moment passes. 5. Airlines use pricing complexity to make fees feel normal instead of optional. Airlines don't rely on one big fee to make money anymore. Instead, they use layered pricing complexity to slowly normalize paying extra for things that used to be included. This strategy works because confusion lowers resistance. When passengers can't easily tell what's included and what's optional, they stop questioning charges and accept them as part of flying. One of the biggest tricks is unbundling. Airlines separate seat selection, baggage, boarding order, meals, and even customer service into individual line items. Each fee feels small on its own, but together they dramatically increase the ticket cost. Seniors are especially affected because they often book based on the base fare, assuming reasonable basics are included. Airlines know many passengers won't recalculate the total once they're emotionally committed to the trip. Another tactic is delayed disclosure. Some fees appear only after booking, during check-in, or even at the airport. By then, passengers feel trapped. Another trick is framing fees as choices. Airlines use language that implies control, even when the alternative is discomfort or inconvenience. For example, choose your seat sounds optional, but not choosing may mean a middle seat or separation from a companion. Another subtle strategy is inconsistency. Fees vary by route, time, and passenger profile, making comparison difficult. This prevents passengers from building expectations or spotting unfair charges. Another overlooked tactic is normalization through repetition. Airlines repeatedly show fee prompts in apps and emails, making extra charges feel routine. Over time, passengers stop seeing them as tricks and accept them as the cost of travel. Another powerful strategy is bundling fear with pricing. Warnings like, avoid the gate fee, push passengers to pay early, even if enforcement is inconsistent. Pricing complexity isn't about transparency, it's about exhaustion. When passengers are tired of calculating, they comply. Understanding this allows travelers to pause, calculate totals calmly, and decide what's truly necessary instead of paying out of confusion. 6. Airlines use loyalty programs to lock passengers into worse deals. Loyalty programs look like rewards, but airlines use them primarily as control mechanisms. The biggest secret is that frequent flyer programs often encourage passengers to make financially worse decisions in exchange for perceived benefits. Points, miles, and status tiers are framed as progress, but they're designed to create emotional attachment. Seniors and frequent flyers are especially vulnerable because they value familiarity and recognition. Airlines know this and use loyalty status to reduce price sensitivity. Another hidden tactic is complexity. Loyalty programs are intentionally hard to understand. Redemption values change, blackout dates appear, and dynamic pricing makes points worth different amounts depending on demand. This prevents passengers from easily calculating real value. Another trick is sunk cost pressure. Once passengers earn partial status, they're more likely to overpay to finish the tier, even if cheaper or better flights exist elsewhere. Airlines also use status to soften poor experiences. Priority boarding, free drinks, or lounge access can distract from delays, cramped seats, or higher fares. Another overlooked tactic is data leverage. Loyalty programs allow airlines to track passenger behavior in detail, tailoring offers and prices based on willingness to pay. Two passengers can see different prices for the same flight based on status or booking history. Another strategy is artificial scarcity. Limited-time bonus offers create urgency, pushing passengers to book quickly without comparison. Airlines rarely emphasize that loyalty benefits can disappear overnight due to rule changes. Programs are not contracts. They are adjustable at the airline's discretion. Loyalty isn't rewarded equally, it's managed strategically to maximize revenue. When passengers understand this, they can use loyalty programs selectively instead of letting them dictate decisions. 7. Airlines use customer service runarounds to wear passengers down. One of the most frustrating secrets airlines rely on is intentional customer service friction. When something goes wrong, airlines rarely provide a clear, direct path to resolution. Instead, passengers are pushed through loops of apps, chatbots, email forms, and long phone queues. This is not poor service design, it is strategic exhaustion. Airlines know that every extra step reduces the likelihood a passenger will follow through. Seniors are especially impacted because they tend to prefer human interaction and clear answers. When faced with automated systems or conflicting instructions, many simply give up. Another tactic is compartmentalization. Airport staff, gate agents, call centers, and online support often operate independently. Each can claim the issue belongs to another department. This fragmentation prevents accountability. Another hidden strategy is time-based deflection. Airlines frequently advise passengers to wait 24 to 72 hours, or contact us after travel. By then, emotional urgency fades, and many claims are never filed. Another overlooked trick is selective empathy. Staff are trained to sound sympathetic without offering solutions. Phrases like, "I understand how frustrating that is," create emotional release while avoiding action. Airlines also limit documentation at the airport. Receipts, delay confirmations, or written explanations are often difficult to obtain, making later claims harder. Another subtle tactic is policy overload. Airlines reference long terms and conditions knowing most passengers won't read them. This creates a perception that rules are fixed and unchangeable, even when exceptions exist. Another powerful tool is inconsistency. Different agents provide different answers, causing passengers to doubt themselves. Over time, confusion turns into resignation. Airlines rely on the fact that most passengers value peace over persistence. Customer service friction isn't accidental inefficiency. It's a filter designed to reduce payouts and complaints. Passengers who recognize this can document everything, ask direct questions, and escalate immediately instead of being quietly pushed aside. 8. Airlines use fear-based messaging to control passenger behavior. Fear is one of the most effective tools airlines use, and it appears everywhere once you know how to spot it. From booking screens to boarding announcements, airlines use subtle fear-based messaging to influence decisions. Phrases like last chance, limited availability, avoid extra fees, and may result in denied boarding are designed to trigger anxiety. When passengers are afraid of making the wrong choice, they are more likely to comply quickly. Seniors are particularly sensitive to fear-based messaging because they value certainty and rule following. Airlines know this and frame instructions in ways that discourage questions. Another tactic is consequence exaggeration. Airlines often imply worst-case outcomes without explaining likelihood. For example, warnings about carry-on size enforcement are emphasized even when enforcement is inconsistent. This pushes passengers to pay for checked bags preemptively. Another strategy is public pressure. Announcements are made in crowded spaces, making passengers less likely to ask clarifying questions. No one wants to appear confused or hold up the line. Another overlooked tactic is selective enforcement stories. Airlines highlight rare incidents, like denied boarding or gate bag fees, knowing stories spread faster than statistics. Fear travels socially. Another subtle tool is countdown language. Boarding timers, closing gates, and final calls create urgency even when timelines are flexible. This urgency reduces resistance. Another strategy is authority framing. Airline messaging often references federal regulations or security requirements, even when rules are airline-specific. This blurs the line between law and policy, making passengers less likely to challenge decisions. Fear-based control works because it feels protective. 9. Airlines quietly change rules. After you book and hope you don't notice. One of the most overlooked airline secrets is how often rules change after you've already booked your ticket. Airlines rarely treat the booking as a fixed agreement. Instead, they reserve the right to modify seat policies, baggage allowances, boarding rules, and even fare conditions without directly alerting passengers in a meaningful way. These changes are usually buried in updated terms, small app notifications, or emails filled with marketing language. Most passengers never notice. Seniors are especially affected because they tend to trust that what was true at booking will still apply at travel time. Airlines rely on that trust. Another tactic is policy rewording. Airlines slightly adjust language so a benefit still appears to exist, but with added restrictions that make it harder to use. For example, free changes may suddenly exclude certain fare types. Another trick is timing. Rule changes often happen weeks before departure, when passengers are no longer price checking or reviewing details. Airlines know most people won't cancel and rebook. Another hidden strategy is selective enforcement. Even when rules change, enforcement varies by airport and staff member. This inconsistency makes passengers doubt whether a rule truly changed or if they misunderstood it. Airlines benefit from this uncertainty. Another overlooked tactic is shifting responsibility. Airlines may say changes are due to regulatory updates or operational needs, even when the change is purely internal. This framing discourages pushback. Most importantly, airlines rarely highlight what passengers lose, only what remains. Rule changes aren't rare exceptions. They're part of how airlines maintain flexibility while passengers absorb the inconvenience. Travelers who recheck policies before departure are far better protected than those who assume nothing has changed. 10. Airlines rely on passenger embarrassment to prevent questions and pushback. One of the quietest but most effective tricks airlines use is social pressure. Airlines understand human behavior extremely well, and they know most passengers hate feeling embarrassed, slow, or difficult in public spaces. Airports are designed to amplify this feeling. Lines are tight, announcements are loud, and staff are visibly rushed. This environment discourages passengers from asking questions or challenging decisions, even when they are fully within their rights. Seniors are especially affected because many were raised to respect authority and avoid confrontation. Airlines rely on that instinct. Another tactic is public correction. When a passenger asks a question at the counter or gate, staff often respond quickly and firmly, sometimes using policy language that sounds final. Even if the answer is incomplete or misleading, the tone alone shuts down further discussion. Another strategy is time pressure combined with audience pressure. When people are waiting behind you, it becomes emotionally harder to speak up. Airlines know most passengers would rather comply than feel judged by others. Another overlooked trick is selective enforcement in public view. When one passenger is corrected or charged a fee in front of others, it sends a message without an announcement. Fear spreads silently. Another subtle tactic is labeling. Words like late, non-compliant, or exception are used carefully to frame passengers as the problem, not the policy. This framing discourages follow-up questions. Airlines also avoid private resolution when possible. Many issues could be handled discreetly, but resolving them publicly discourages others from trying. Embarrassment is a powerful control tool because it doesn't feel like force. It feels like self-policing. Once passengers recognize this, they can calmly ask for clarification, request private discussions, and remember that protecting their rights is never something to be embarrassed about. Airports and airlines thrive on one simple thing most passengers don't realize they're giving away: attention. When you're distracted, tired, rushed, or overwhelmed, decisions get made for you. The secrets we covered aren't about paranoia, they're about awareness. Airlines don't need to lie when confusion, silence, and pressure do the work for them. Once you understand how these systems are designed, you stop reacting emotionally and start traveling strategically. That shift alone can save you money, energy, and unnecessary stress. If even one of these secrets made you rethink how you fly, imagine how much smoother your next trip could be with a little preparation. This channel exists to make sure you're never the passenger left confused at the gate or surprised at the counter. If you want more real-world travel tips airlines won't advertise, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Hit like if this helped you, share it with someone who travels often, and let us know which secret surprised you the most. The more informed you are, the harder it is for airlines to take advantage of you.